Alright, this is what the mirrors look like. Kind of like if you were doing a before and after. And one of the things I have really spent a lot of time and energy on is upgrading the mirrors on these bikes. Now, Chris got me this set for the R1. Glenn got me a set for the Kawasaki 750. But these mirrors don't come this way. I painted them. And, uh-oh, just when I was trying to hide, he shows up!
I found you.
Oh, he fell. Look at this. He's got tires. Ah, I've been exposed. He's got drugs. Look at this guy. Wow.
The delivery is complete.
Wow, I can't believe it.
I'll pick up the cash in the potted plant.
I was just saying how cheap you were. You never bought me a set of mirrors. You can't plan this. Oh my God. Anyway, I was going to pull the mirrors on Rob's bike as one of the next things, but that's the next step somewhere down the road. We got to get rid of those flat black mirrors. And maybe when you pull a fairing, you get this little piece off too. I'm not sure. So let's see what you got here, Chunky.
Okay, so I brought over my brand new.
Okay, you got that. We can drill it out.
We'll
yeah.
Drill that out.
Yep.
I got the tires for
you got the tires. You ready to buff?
Bike. This doesn't fit.
Okay, so let's put it back on my bike. Well, wait till Vlad picks up his stuff there. We can get this out of here anyway. You got? Do you have the buffing stuff?
No. No, I'm going to do my taxes. I thought we were buffing tomorrow. I just came by to drop off. I was right here. My tax guy is close.
Taxes?
Yeah.
Just do what I do. Don't pay.
Depending on how the taxes go, I might be here with just a shop rag instead of
He'll be here in his bare feet. All right, so you got the stuff for, well, we're actually ready for tomorrow here. That's great.
Perfect.
All right,
Perfect.
couldn't
No,
be better.
I didn't know you were available today, to be honest.
I'm not available.
That's
What's happening? My plan was I was going to pull the mirrors on this bike. And because I'm waiting here if I got to babysit tomorrow.
But these have good view. You're not getting rid of these.
No,
You're
we're
just
painting them.
Okay. Good.
See, there's a difference. Paint.
Oh yeah.
A sandpaper.
Oh, yeah.
And I was looking, if I got to pull a fairing off, I'll
Paint
do this
piece
little.
right here. Yeah, that'll be.
Yeah, I did all the pieces on the side already, so we're kind of done with that.
Yeah, that looks good.
But I'll pull those off. That's no big deal.
Yep.
And the reason I put these on, and these are painted, these have the blinkers in them. I didn't have any front blinkers on this bike.
Now, which were the ones that?
This is the set now Chris bought one set. I forget which one it was.
This is the set Chris got because I got.
Yeah, and these are the one. Yeah, these are the ones you bought. Yeah.
So I bought. These.
And by the way, these are by far the longest and the best. And you know, God forbid you should be able to see something when you're riding.
Take a look at this. This is what Rob's is going to look like because it's the same mirror as Rob's.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I just got to pull little parts off of that. All right, so tomorrow we're going to buff. Is that the plan?
That's the plan.
Okay, baby. That was great that you got the tires.
Yeah, I figured I'd just bring them over.
Let's see how this day plays out. It's freezing out there. Oh my God.
So cold. I couldn't even get the door to the truck.
Oh my God. No, forget about it.
April showers or April ice?
We're freezing. By the way, people don't know. It really is freezing out there today. I'm glad we're not painting today. Well, it won't matter what the weather is tomorrow. Tomorrow won't matter at all. So Glenn's other project that we're going to work on probably tomorrow if he comes here, and Luciano said he might be able to stop by. This is a used windscreen he bought. I don't know if you can see. It's got a lot of little scratches and stuff in it. But we're going to have the compound, and he's going to bring his real high-tech buffer tomorrow. So, well, hopefully we'll get that. We'll put that in inventory. But today, what I wanted to do, and before I was so rudely interrupted, it's my aversion to flat black. I just don't like flat black parts. Now this, step one is going to be to pull these off. I don't know if I got to pull the front of the fairing off, but I looked already. If I do, I guess I can do that part. I want to get rid of all the flat black on this bike. To me, the parts that I've already done have really made the bike so much nicer. It's not even up for discussion. Now another thing, the history of mirrors. In that case, which is all buried in there, I have about 25 extra mirrors. The problem is if you can't see out of a mirror, I don't care how shiny it is. These mirrors, perfect. You can see right out of them. All I needed to do was sand them and paint them. This bike, I've had at least 4 or 5 sets of mirrors. I finally arrived at some mirrors that have the blinkers built right into them, and that they were 20 bucks, 24 bucks. And again, I went through this before. This bike, I had other mirrors on. These are mirrors that come on an R1. These are the real R1 mirrors that belong on that bike. But on this bike, because the fairing's wider, they worked out perfectly. But I'm so overly concerned, I guess, with being able to see. I know some people with sport bikes, they want to have the mirrors up here in the middle of the windshield. Well, in this one I just did for nostalgia, because years ago when I used to paint all of the bikes black and gold, I'd always have the mirrors with a gold stripe on them to match the bike. So that was kind of a nostalgia thing. So let me get busy, pull this off. Glenn will be here tomorrow, and we'll have some interesting stuff to do. Every day's interesting here. There are no boring days. Just one little tip for anybody who might be using these aluminum screws. That they're beautiful and they decorate the bike nicely and everything, but never put Loctite on them. Never use Loctite, and always use that little rubber washer around the windshield. Now, as with a lot of modern bikes, to get at the bolts that hold the mirrors in there, you've got to take the instrument panel off, the windshield. Quite a bit of stuff has to come off, but we'll get at it momentarily here. It's just, this is what I love about RDs. Look at the difference. Here's the RD. 2 bolts and the engine comes out. Look at this. There's 18 screws hold this whole instrument panel in. All that just to get these 2 bolts out, to get the mirrors out. There we are. If you think getting those last bolts out, oh God. This is engineered like a lot of modern stuff. It's really pretty. It's really cute. To get those 2 bolts out, you really shouldn't have to take that much of the bike apart. So just to recap here, I'm trying to schedule tomorrow as being the day we're going to buff this paint out. It's, I think, 3 or 4 days old. That's plenty. I've had the heat up in the house because it's been cold out there. So this paint is really dry. Should be ready for a nice buff out, and Glenn is going to do a great demo for us, I hope. And Mark should be here tonight. Actually, tonight he's scheduled. Lay out the rest of these decals. We hope that's going to work out. We have had the busiest, absolute busiest winter I can ever remember. And I remember a lot of winters. And we got our 2 mirrors. So let's get sanding, maybe get some paint on these mirrors before the coffee pot boils over. Now, one of the things you might be thinking is, oh, it's just a mirror. It's going to be a simple thing to paint. Well, you know, I used to think that, but what I found out over many years in painting, probably 100 mirrors, especially for Luciano, those older Ducati mirrors, sometimes when you'd put the paint on, they'd start crackling, and I know from being in the plastics business years and years ago, they regrind plastic, they take the scrap, regrind it, and at some point in time the whole thing is just a mishmash of who knows what. But anyway, this was my point. Step 1, we know the mirrors have a lot of wax on them, so I always put up some simple green. I was just talking to John Pothier about this. If you have M600, that's great, but needless to say, thanks to our lovely government, you probably can't buy it everywhere. But step 1 is to get some simple green, some Brillo. If you don't do this, what happens is you spend all the time painting and buff. In this case, they will be buffed. You get them really looking great, and all of a sudden a chunk of paint comes off. Now, since I've already done a set of these mirrors, I know they come out great, by the way. These flat areas buff out, and it looks a lot like the facets of a diamond when it's done. And hey, it was nice seeing Glenn this morning, but I didn't expect him to be here. I was expecting I'd be, and it looks like I am going to be here alone all day. Who knows? Anyway, he's got his project. Tomorrow we're going to work on it. Maybe get Luciano over here. I don't know if he's going to be able to come over. At this point in our life, everybody has stuff they got to do. Now, once I have that, the SOS has a really good soap. This is the best stuff there is for degreasing. I would normally be taking these parts and degreasing them with M600, but I'm going to try this just as an experiment and just using a simple green and not using that. And what I'm going to do is take, this is 600, this is our Portuguese sandpaper. To show what we're using, it's the Rhino Wet, and we have had just great luck with this. Now all I'm trying to do is etch the surface, get it sanded, smooth, etched, whatever you want to call it. Then I'm going to take the parts and very carefully with the compressor blow dry them, because all in all these joints and cracks, I don't want to be painting this and water comes out. I want everything to be scuffed. There's little rubber grommets here I got to pull out. I remember to do that. Now these are real Kawasaki mirrors. The ones that are on the R1 are like the Chinese copy. Even they were good. And I was amazed the first time I rode the bike, because where I live, for me to get to where it's fun to ride, it's about, the whole round trip is about 60 miles one way. So what happens, I have about 40 of that under cars cutting me off, trucks don't see you, people pass you on the right. So I don't want to die yet. I don't want to die, Grandpa Windy, jeez. Anyway, once these are scuffed up, we'll be ready for the next step. And just getting them scuffed is the whole objective here. Now, once that's prepped up, I want to get the water out of, and this is just an air chuck. Around the edge of the glass, as you can see, it's all coming out. Well, quite a bit in there. There's always a vent hole in the bottom of the mirror. Oh, look at it go. Watch this. You put it in the vent hole. You can see all that. Now, if you were painting this and that came out, it would be a mess. So this is now another one of those great tips. Just put the air chuck in by that. Now one good little tip, of course I'm taping off the threads. I don't want to get paint on there, just to make it, one less thing to do is to get the paint off the threads. But the joint, where the mirror comes together, I don't want to get a big buildup of paint there. That'll be a paint, that's where the paint will tend to peel or chip or whatever. So I'm going to wrap just enough of this tape on there that'll keep the paint buildup away. And it's a little detail like that that'll allow me to move the mirror around very conveniently by not having paint in that ball joint that's there. Okay, another thing too, this is a number 11 X-Acto blade, a brand new one. If you touch that to your finger, you'll see it's like a razor. This is one of the tricks that I've used. Not even a trick, just ordinary technology. It's really difficult to get a nice edge around the edge of the mirrors, but if you stick your fingernail in there, your fingernail's nice and soft, it doesn't cut the tape, and you run it down in there, like so, you can almost cut the tape with your finger. Sometimes you can't, in which case you need that number 11 blade. Now in this case it's such a sharp bend, I'm going to take the number 11 blade Painting a mirror seems like it would be a 10-minute job. Well, when you start doing it and you find out all the little details, and if you want to get it right and get all the little details of it right, it does take a little bit of time. Now the last step, of course, I have to jig these parts up somehow that I can hold them. And the last thing, I'll tack rag them down just to be sure we don't have any schmutz, and this also gets rid of some of the static in the parts. In the past I haven't really had to do this, but with the cold weather coming, I don't know why. I've been doing it on every coat of paint, so we'll see. Now, a really good tip, one that you're not going to see on the internet, probably not, Because I think the people that figure it out, they're not that prone to sharing it, but it's a really good tip, especially with mirrors. Now what's going to happen, the first time I paint this, even though it's been prepped and cleaned and everything, what has a possibility of happening is I'll get a bunch of little funny looking little fish eyes in it. And it's from the plastic, from the release agent that they use in the plastic that stays in the upper layer of the plastic, I think. Doesn't matter. What I found works, I'm going to go out and spray this black. If it shows me any imperfections, anything wrong in here, I'll take a clean paper towel and some acetone and wipe it. But leave just the slightest coat of paint on there. Just the slightest coat. Let it dry, or if it's really cold, I'll hit it with a hairdryer. Go right out and paint it again, and the second time, it's usually fine. And in the summer, of course, you can just do it in the sunshine, and that takes care of that. But these mirrors are really nice. When they're buffed out, as you're looking at the bike from several angles, it picks up like the facets of a diamond. They're really nice. And the biggest thing is you can see who's behind you. Yeah, because it's so cold outside, it really is just bordering on freezing here. Well, I wanted these parts to dry inside. I turned the heat in the house up. In 20 minutes, we'll be ready to sand them down and move on to the next step. Yeah, first coat of black. This is going to have to dry. We'll give it several, maybe 2 or 3 coats of black. Wet sand it and ready to put some clear on it. Now we were very lucky in the fact that we didn't have any fisheye or any contamination issues with this. But what I want to do, I want to get one more coat of black on here. This has 2 coats of black. It's lightly sanded between coats with our favorite sandpaper. And I'm just trying to get it a little bit flat. I'm going to put one more coat of black on this, and then we're going to shoot some clear. The reason I like to have the little extra paint on there is if I'm sanding an edge or a corner or whatever, or even while I'm buffing, I don't wind up going through down into the plastic. I just give myself a little cushion there. And it's not a big sand out, it's not an all-inclusive thing. Just knocking down the high spots here. Alright, now we have enough black on there now. It should be ready for, as soon as this dries up, about 20 minutes, up by a heating vent, ready to spray some clear on there. Now what happens if you decide you're going to skip some of these steps? In my opinion, the final product is not nearly as nice. It's not as flat. Or if you try to do all these things with 1 coat of paint instead of 2 or 3, and then you go through at the very end, you make yourself a mountain of work for nothing. And the wind has been tricky out here. That's why I've been trying to paint. Wind's blowing in a direction it almost never blows in. And once the clear is on that is really going to look nice. Now the interesting thing here is to try to figure out which way the wind is blowing. You really can't even tell here. Now it's changing. Hard to believe. What's up, my God? Not sure you can see the quality of that first coat of clear, but it's
It's going to get 3 coats of clear altogether, about 20 minutes apart. And all of the clear has to go on within an hour, so I've got to get cranking. That's going to be nice. I love the shape of these mirrors.
Well, the mirrors look absolutely beautiful. And I spoke to Glenn this afternoon, and he's going to be here bright and early tomorrow morning to start our buffing. I am really looking forward to seeing this all buffed out. He's already got a frame and title. And then once we get that done, we'll start working on the wheels. And as soon as we can get together with Mark and finalize all the rest of these decals, this will be done. We are really coming up on the end of a really, really intense painting season. I guess you'd have to go back and look at all the videos to see just how many things we painted, but we painted a lot, I know. Hey, and hope you enjoyed the videos, and thanks for watching.